Bueno, ¿todo bien? ¿Se oye bien?
Okay. Right, it seems that everything is well set. All right, first of all, thank you very much for being here today. I know it is lunchtime, so it is not an easy time, so I will try to be brief in my presentation. And in the next 40 minutes, I'd like you to have a good time, and hopefully we'll be sharing something useful for you. Okay? So, well, I've been introduced already. So the title of my presentation is 21 days. And the reason for that is the simple reason that I will be showing off throughout my presentation. So 21 days was the days or the borrowing maximum days that you could borrow a book in libraries. And actually, I borrowed many books in the library that have brought me up to what I am today with you. I don't know whether you listened to Fermin's presentation and to the presentation of other speakers that have talked before me. They told their story, and I found a common thread, a commonality. They all had a very early vocation for computers. They started at a very young age to play around with computers. They started doing programming at the age of 6 or 7, but that was not me. Let us say that an entry into the world of IT security quite late in my life. When I was small, I liked and I continue to like to imagine other realities. That is to say, to find things that are unusual, that are not ordinary, that are kind of out of the box. That is to say, to imagine reality in different ways. And when I was small, instead of playing around with computers, I used to do drawings, to read books, to play games, anything or all that aimed at satisfying my need and my will to find or imagine other realities. My first computer was a 286 computer. I don't remember the age that I was at the time. Basically, I used it to play games, but that was it. I don't know whether you can recall this frame. Do you know the video game for it? Yes, some people know it. It's Indiana Jones, Last Crusade. This is a graphical adventure. Well, it may sound a bit nonsense, okay, or feel nonsense to you, but it is a very marked memory in my mind. I used to play this game with Mario Baiano. Mario Baiano was much more into computers than myself. He's still working on it. He's working in security now. He's part of Intrepids. So I'd like to greet him from here. And we used to get together in Valencia. We used to get together just to plot maps of this game and to analyze it as much as possible. And actually all that gave us lots of learning, and that a know-how that I used later on in life. But what is most important of all is this, okay? This is the public library. I come from Leon and I lived in Palencia for 20 years. Most of my time I spent it, so most of my life I spent it in Palencia. And I would like to call upon journalists and journalists dealing with security to do some research about Palencia, what happened in Valencia. Very many security experts were born in Valencia. There was something in the water of Valencia that made us all become interested in this topic. And physically, Palencia is located in the north of Spain. Functionally speaking, we could say that it is next to Teruel. meaning that perhaps you will not hear anything about Palencia in the news or anywhere else. And I'm showing the photographs of this library, the library of Palencia, because, well, some years ago, getting access to resources was completely different than now. Internet is strongly developed. It is very easy to get access to any resource, whether it is papers, books, PDFs, you name it. But when I started in all these worlds, I was 13 or 14 years of age, and accessing resources was not easy. It was not as easy as it is today. At that time, I didn't have an internet connection. I was not in the underground groups or anything like that. I was much more normal, ordinary, standard, so to speak. I was not into those world or group, but what I did was just to read as much as possible. Well, I'd like to give you a piece of advice, okay? It is not that you have to do it, but I'd like to advise you to read as much as possible. If you're reading something that you don't understand, don't you worry. At a given point in time, you will understand, you get to understand that you did not understand at the time when you read it for the first time. And when you wonder what will that do for me? Well, if you look at it, so in the long term, it will pay off. Read as much as possible. And I remember, someone said that to me short ago, and that person was very much right. So 21 days was the amount of time you could borrow a book, and there was also a limited number of books at the library. And at that time, in that library, all the books that I borrowed allowed me to set the basis to understand what later on would become a topic of research and study, and the field I would work in. I used to borrow programming books, IT books. I learned how to program, how to understand programming. I started to do C programming to understand how a computer worked inside. And that was one of the things that allowed me to satisfy my need to find unusual things that were out of the box.
So by having this knowledge in place, everybody access them. I want everybody to access this knowledge. I want to highlight how important it is that every human being has to be able to access knowledge. That's a must. Otherwise, we will be denying everybody the possibility of develop as a human being, their interests and so on. I want to thank the libraries for their support. Thank you. I thank all public resources, libraries for having given me so much knowledge this far. Are you familiar with this? Does it sound good to you? Can you recognize this screenshot? From what program does it come from? No, you don't? This belongs to a soft light program, which is a purifier in use, very well used back in their epoch when it comes to cracking. I started as a cracker. Crackers, sometimes I usually read articles or books. Crackers are those people who messed around a system, they broke it, they deleted it in such a way. The definition about crackers, we're supposed to be the bad hackers. Perhaps yes, perhaps not. But within this world, crackers studied and researched the software protections. They conducted reverse engineering and serial numbers to be registering your product. They pop up a window. You have to register, and by changing just the gap, you can read off of the program. So the ensembler being an assembler, being a cracker, I learned this so much from people who publish this knowledge. We feedback from people's knowledge, from other resources we found in the library. A source of information and learning is what the community published back at that time I was learning. I learned so much from the community, and I had the feeling that what I learned it has to be uploaded, widespread, disseminated. Carpe, Spanish student, had so many incredibly huge amount of tutorials where step by step they taught to us how to break a software protection in a very detailed way. If I had to think of any turning point in my trajectory as a computer person, I would suggest and I would highlight that by working with these tutorials, manuals, as to cracking software protection would be the remarkable thing. The renowned, remarkable ISOV theme. Many people from the old school, the old legacy, remember it. Okay, I use it to do in ensemblers. So there are so many books, resources online. Please don't leave it aside on the bookshelves, dusting themselves. There was a time in which searching for this information, looking for this information was a hacking considered fact. So far, so good. At a certain moment in time, when I was about 16, 17 years old, I stopped doing this thing. I left computer security aside and got involved in different issues. I did a pause in my life. But of course, at a certain moment in time, I decided about my life. What can I do with my life? Before entering into being a malware analyst, I was sending out my CV for the Walmart supermarket as a butcher. Of course, being a butcher is a respectable job, as trustworthy as mine. But I would like to mention this for you to see, my friends, that if at a certain moment in time you have chosen a different path that has anything to do with computing security, it's never too late when you are going to get good things. You only need working interests and effort. That's the truth. You cannot get this overnight. You need many hours. You need to spend so many hours sitting around the computer, awake. So you're reading, you're practicing something you really like, you're passionate about it. So in some way, this make up for the effort you invested. But it's true that it's a hard job being a malware analyst, but it's worth trying it. So I opted for this path. What can I do? Very few things. I didn't have a university degree. I started going to the university for the sake of it, but I wasn't very interested in the university. So in the very end, what in my child years was a hobby allows me now conduct my own profession and career. I knew how to do inverse and reverse engineering, knowledge I got when I was younger. So I started working in an antivirus company where I learned so much from seeing different types of Trojans, malware. This allowed me to learn a lot. At the end of the day, that's at a given moment in time, I created my own enterprise because something funny happened to me. While I was staying in front of the computer and going through Windows files, I discovered a chain, a shadow community file. Shadow, what's that? It struck my attention, seeing this chain on a Microsoft file. I opened it with the disensemble. I did reversing engineering on this driver. At the very end, I found a vulnerability on this driver that allowed me to scale up on the privileges on all Windows releases. It was such a surprise for me to see that. I didn't go into that. So I warned Microsoft about this failure, this bug. So by reading Book Trap, when I saw an email from a company by the name of Defense, and at the bottom of the email, I will pay you for your bugs, for your vulnerabilities. Can I be paid for discovering this vulnerability, these bugs? Of course, I contacted them. I got this vulnerability, but I warned Microsoft about that. Are you still interested? Of course we are. We are very interested, a lot. So they bought my vulnerability. Wow, this one-day job allows me to be 30 days after being tranquil and quiet. So let's look at this. This being done, the next 5 to 4 years, I devoted myself to exploring companies, buying vulnerabilities. I found vulnerabilities. This was a perfect plan. I didn't mount a company per se, but I was sitting around my computer without many restless things, and I delved into the software. The companies were interested in buying operating systems that can be vulnerable. Microsoft systems, for instance. It was good for me. Thank God I made a living, and I learned so much because for us to discover vulnerability, you need to understand how systems work at a very low level. So this served to me. It was very useful as to understanding that many technologies work, and I gained so much experience from many other subjects, matters, and walks of life. Afterwards, along with a friend of mine, Gabriel Gonzalez from Palencia, a long life friend, Gabriel. You may know him in the computing world. If you are know there, in this computing world, when you know these people, you can tell they are brilliant. They had little effort doing the job, but there are also competing people who are not very special. We are devoted ourselves into these lives with more or less effort, but we can do things properly. Like Fermin says before, geniuses have come through this stage. But there is an important thing to make it clear. Everybody can devote himself to the cybersecurity. It takes time and effort, period. I don't have a university degree, and I'm on stage presenting my paper. So we set up a company, a startup. We are in the fashion of a startup with entrepreneurs. I got to know how this world works, and we were a bit innocent, naive in this regard. After 1 year from setting up this company, we accumulated a lot of experience, and we shut down our company. Sometimes the logos on LinkedIn, the postings, if you fail, try it again 24 times, and you'll get a success after many times. Intelligence is being able to adapt yourself to reality. If you had tried something 24 times and you didn't get it, you may only be considering that perhaps it's not your field of action. You should move on into different area. So it didn't work. My company didn't work. I gained experience, but it didn't work. Why should I be here in my startup? So let's face the facts. Perhaps a company is not something I should do. Period. During this time, 2010, 2011, I started being interested in the industrial control systems. I am fascinated about the capacity that you can have from a computer to affect the real world, which is something these systems deal with. I was totally fascinated with scale systems, nuclear station controlling systems, or power station systems, physical station. So I devoted myself in doing reverse engineering with the firmware and software on these devices, controlling these devices and the systems themselves. Another turning point in my trajectory was the Basecamp project, created by an American company. We were contacted as researchers. Each and every of you will be given a device, as you can see on screen, an industrial control device, and you will get 1 week to try to break it. You're gonna have to write down a report, and the findings and the vulnerabilities has to be presented to us. Anything you had found. I was sent this device and I connected on my house. I applied the methodology I put in place for these things. I looked for information, controlling and software controlling of this device, the reverse engineering of this software to understand the protocol in use, to do reverse engineering with firmware, which is the specific software running through the specific coding inside this device. The truth is, I was very surprised. I discovered so many things inside. There was a design failure, protocol totally insecure, that allowed to take the control, to take over from this device and to leave it aside, out of order. So this kind of device is controlling everyday physical things. Every day when we get up in the morning and we switch on the light, what is working in our everyday life, having hot water, the gas supply, is controlled by these mechanisms. I was very surprised about the lack of security of these devices, by taking into account how important the things are controlled by themselves. So I'm going to show you now a video. Let's see if I can show you.
Aquí lo veis. Bueno, en este caso lo que estaba enviándoles era una serie de paquetes.
Here I'm sending specific Ethernet IAP protocol packages, which is used in this device. It was by default insecure. When I presented the results, you can see I put it out of order, and you cannot connect to this device at all. The software running through stopped working. So I presented this project, and it has a lot of repercussion. Back at that time, Cesar Cerulo, he is a legendary hacker from Argentina, contacted me and offered me to join IO Active, who was very powerfully renowned in the hacking world. It's made up of hackers. It's an American company. On one side, I was really emotional. Fascinated about getting into this company, joining this company. I was about to learn so many things. But on the other side, I panicked. But at that time, I panic about flying on the plane. I had a terrible English. I panic about communicating myself in English. I panic about not communicating myself in the way they expect from me. I panic person. After being hired, I went to the States for 3 months, thanks to a person which is in the audience. Otherwise, I would have stayed. I would have stayed in the bed because it was spooky. It was scary to move on in there without knowing what was waiting for me. So unfortunately, something that we need to get through. After 4 years, I still working in IO Active. I stopped having fear about planes. I get on board many planes. So this plane fear has vanished into thin air. Are you plane fear people? There's no magical recipe. Speak with people flying; they will tell you about their experience. I'm talked with Chem about their fear to fly, and Chema reported me their experiences on the planes, and this helped me out a lot because when you are on the plane, you know that this is normal thing. You are not going to die on the plane. So I hear a noise in the plane. Oh, the wings are moving. I'm going to die. I'm about to die. That's what happened to me back at the time. So I'm speaking English much better. You know that in Spain we have a tremendous deficit with English. We have trouble speaking English. We lack confidence as Spaniards about speaking good English. So we had trouble. We confront ourselves with making ourselves understandable in English. We need to disinhibit ourselves. So I visited so many countries. I saw so many people, so many different cultures. It's very important to devote yourself to the security world, which is now globalized. So if you're working on this cybersecurity world, you're going to meet new people and new places with anecdotes. If you go to the India, and India shake the hand this way means yes and not no. I had trouble in some countries when spelling out what I meant, and they shake their head this way, and I thought, okay, they're saying no, but it was a yes. So you are in situations that you never thought of before. I remember sometime I was invited to a conference in Washington. Suddenly, I was there with the CIA director. I never thought of myself being with the CIA main head. Oh my God! I picture myself. What the hell am I doing in front of the big officer from the CIA? So these big experiences teaching you so much throughout your life, and you always remember them with pleasure and make yourself advance into new challenges. I was lucky enough to that Gabby, after 3 years, joined IO Active. Gabrielle joined us. Winter Core didn't work, but sometimes life gives you a second opportunity. IO Active is not our own company, but it's a company, and we are happily working there. This is a picture we took in Dubai. We went in to Dubai for a project, and we were monkey around there as we did in Palencia. We were working a lot. I had lucky enough to work with people, with friends. That's a remarkable thing. For instance, one other thing that we do in IO Active is to do research. We like breaking things to research. Do you know what is this? What is this? You can see now on screen. No, you don't know. This is tamper bills detector used in the supermarket and the main stores, Corte Inglés. The post office uses this detector at false bills and notes. So these devices can be hacked as well. So we got around to that. We, with a simple piece of paper, we modify it, tampered with this false piece of paper as a valid bill or not, and certain person by plugging into the serial port of this device can update the firmware without any kind of insecurities. So let's watch a video where we can check out this as a feasible thing. This is a legitimate 100 euros bill. Let's see what happens. Does it take it as a valid? It took it as a valid bill. My God. With a very simple modification of the firmware in this device detector. Sometimes life goes around and around the servers. We talk about that hackers' talent has to go outside Spain, abroad. I like living in Spain. For me, success is to do my job properly, come back home and having beers with a person. I want to share my life. Every human being has to define what success is for that person. Big expectations, okay, to some limit, but don't fall into the feeling of defeat. Everybody has to define what success means for you, my friend. Success is what I'm now doing with my life. So, some while ago, I was told from my company, Jennifer told me that they decided to open a laboratory in Madrid after moving around many countries. In the very end, I was happy enough to bring over Spain the things I learned outside Spain, abroad. So good people in Spain can work here in their own country, Spain, very close to their loved ones where they were born. This is very interesting. Obviously, the one who wants to go abroad has the right and is entitled to do so. But going abroad as an obligation is not recommendable. It's not the optimum thing. So we opened a laboratory of Harvard's laboratory in Madrid, and for us it was very important because, for instance, the graffiti you can see now on screen was done by somebody from Palencia, with whom I was drawing in the very end live, always, and set being in the very same circles. I was passionate about working, seeing people that are good with me, happily ever after, along with their loved ones. Our idea is to continue this way. The very same things we do in the United States, we have to apply it in Spain. We have the means, we have the people, we have the resources. We can bring back over this talent into Spain, and we can move forward and put forward all these things together. Very little I have to say. I think that each and every of us is old enough to know how to lead their lives. I don't try to set an example. I don't want to give lessons to anybody, but please respect. You have to have respect. Let's respect hackers. Sometimes developers are vilipendiated. When you find a vulnerability and they say, "Oh, you got a bad product," let's be humble. Let's try to look for the middle term, the gray scale of colors. Let's respect everybody. Everybody in this computing world in security has a job with different scenarios, best scenarios, worst case scenarios. Don't take assumptions as for granted. The hacker in the hacker culture, there are many egoistic people. There is a lot of ego among hackers. We hackers are human beings. We are not normal every day. We are the common guy. We should not feel ourselves superior to others and to vilipendiate and disdain others people's job. Let's be humble. I saw it so many times. I saw the old generations a sense of superiority. Please stop being egoistic. Leave the ego aside. Be happy working and respecting the rest of the people. This is it. Should you have any questions in particular, please, I will be very happy to answer. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.
Hola.
Hello. I want to ask you two questions. Very first question. Where can I start to be a good developer? I guess that at this moment it depends on what you want to program, the software you want to create. If you want to create web-based systems, you may not need to be an assembler. If you want to program embedded systems, very firstly you have to understand how a system works at a very low level. Otherwise, it would be impossible to do so. You will drag out a lack of knowledge that can be a burden. As an everyday developer, you have to analyze the thing you like the most. Let's target something you like. For instance, a mobile application. I want to program a web-based service. Based upon that, study the technology applicable to that, upon which you want to develop the technology, and let's delve into that as much as possible. Be as detailed as possible to confront any problems and issues when programming. Because there are some data sheets that are very simple to program. There are texts that are very simple. You can develop easily creatable programs. When you confront a problem, when you face a problem, you are not prepared for it. You will suffer a lack of knowledge. Let's focus on a specific technology and move forward. How can I be a good cracker? What can I do to be a cracker? Very first, be an ensemble. You need to ensemble, and the machine code. When can I learn the machine code? In many books. There are so many books you can collect about ensembling. All the tutorials, guidelines, manuals are in the internet. As to resources, you'll get so many resources. If you don't want to go to a library, go to the internet, which is the global library, and you'll get as much as you need to learn and to develop your career and to make a good living out of this. This is something super good and fun for us.
Hola, buenas.
Hello. My question is it worth going to the university or studying self-totally, or is worth doing official courses? Yes. Somebody who has studied a university degree always means that is able to do these things. Of course, if you have had the mental capacity, the willpower, and the sacrifice to studying a 4 or 3 year degree, which is not easy at all, and you got it. I think that if you devote yourself to the cybersecurity by applying what you learn from school, the college, or it will come through smoothly. If you have a degree, is going to be useful for you. Is it worth it? Sometimes I lack some basis on mathematics. I missed it, but people studying a mathematical degree will get it. So as much as knowledge you have, much better for you. That's really very useful. Every person is a whole world on itself. But if you have enough stamina, capacity to study a degree, go for it. Definitely, it's worth doing it. And this is some greetings from somebody from the province of Palencia, my friend. Please, there is no microphone in use. We interpreters cannot hear the speaker. Sorry for this inconvenience. Have you assessed the TPN devices? Have you ever evaluated the TPN devices security on hardware? Yes, it's one of the things we are now focused on. It is the type of things I cannot be specific about particular projects. I'm sorry. Every year, people working in IO Active usually publish the researches conducted all over the year to update and get back to the community what the community gave us back to us previous. But I'm not entitled to reveal current ongoing projects. I'm sorry.
Muchísimas
Pues
gracias.
muchas gracias.
Thank you very much for your time and attention. Thank you, Ruben, as a great professional and better human being. Thank you very much.